I was fearless back then. I don't think I'd go undercover today. Life undercover is often very exciting, but in the main, it's a fairly terrifying job. You are dealing with career criminals, and all they've ever known is making money through breaking the law. Fear of getting discovered, fear of having your cover blown, fear of being harmed by the villains who so often brought guns or knives to the negotiating table. There are many difficult aspects to working undercover. For example, you could be negotiating with some very serious criminals over a huge consignment of drugs, and in order to test my credibility, they say, smoke that joint, snort that line of cocaine. I don't really want to be under the influence of drugs when I'm negotiating with some very serious crooks. But if this is a credibility test upon which the case may stand or fall, what am I going to do? If I do that, and I later give evidence in court, will my evidence be believed? Will I be trusted? Because essentially, I've broken the law. The bottom line is, they're often very fluid situations, and you have to do what you feel is the right thing at that given time. On one occasion, when I was working undercover, I was in a very dark and dingy and frankly dangerous pub. Everybody in there knew the bad guys, and I felt like they were all watching my every move. At one point, the leader of this criminal gang poked me in the chest and said, "You could be an undercover cop." I put my hands under the table, which was covered in drinks, stood up and flipped the table over. Drinks went everywhere, glasses smashed, and I stormed out of the pub. A few seconds later, all I could hear behind me was as one of the crooks came running after me. He caught up with me and said, "Peter, I'm really, really sorry. We didn't mean to offend you. Please come back in the pub, and can we get this deal done?" There was a young, inexperienced undercover cop who was really keen to work with me. So on one case I said, "Yeah, fine, you can be my driver and my minder, if you're up for that." And he definitely was. The investigation came to a climax when we were in a car park and the bad guys were going to deliver the drugs. One of the bad guys was in our car. He was the villain that was going to be given the money by me. So, the boot lid goes up, I'm showing the bad guy the money. He's expecting to take this very soon. Pandemonium breaks out because the drugs arrive on the plot. Police officers magically appear out of nowhere and they're making arrests. It's time for me to make my escape. My inexperienced driver hits the accelerator, realises he can't go anywhere and hits the brake, which means that the boot lid comes slamming down on my head. I've got to get away to maintain my credibility, so I run up the road with blood pouring from my head. Surveillance officers who are a bit further away see this and are really alarmed because they think I've been seriously hurt. Fortunately, it was a trip to hospital, a few stitches, and I was absolutely fine. Unlike the bad guys who were looking at a very long jail term. When I worked undercover, I always said that I would never break my cover and admit to being a cop, no matter what I was threatened with, whether that be taken hostage or potentially bad guys trying to rob me, or, as quite often happen, they accuse you of being a cop. Stay undercover. Never break that. Then I went to the FBI headquarters, told them what my position was, and they played me a tape which had sadly come from a wire that an undercover FBI agent was wearing. He maintained he was undercover when his life was under threat, and you hear the sound of a gun being fired, of him falling to the ground and gasping and gurgling his last ever breath. I was fearless back then. I don't think I'd go undercover today.